Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Q4 FY21 earnings conference call of Borosil Renewables hosted by Axis Capital Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Vaibhav Saboo from Axis Capital Limited. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Rutuja, and good day, everyone. I hope everyone's doing fine and is healthy. On behalf of Axis Capital, I'm pleased to welcome you all for the Borosil Renewables Limited Q4 and full year FY21 earnings conference call today. Today we have with us the management team represented by Mr. P.K. Kheruka, who's the chairman, Mr. Ashok Jain, who's the whole-time director, Mr. Sunil Roongta, who's the CFO, and Mr. Rajesh Chaudhary, whole-time director. We'll first begin with opening remarks from the management, followed by a detailed Q&A session. With that, I hand over the floor to Mr. Kheruka. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to the Borosil Renewables Q4 Financial Year 21 investor call. It is a pleasure to be interacting with you once again. The board of Borosil Renewables approved the company's financial results for the fourth quarter financial year 21 and the full year financial year 21 on 12th May. Our results and an updated presentation have been sent to the stock exchanges and have also been uploaded on the company's website. The company has had an excellent quarter of operations with record production and sales. The company achieved sales of 195 crore rupees, a growth of 106% over the corresponding quarter in the previous year. EBITDA during the quarter at 106.6 crores was about 4 times the EBITDA in Q4 financial year 20, and profit after tax at 66.9 crores multiplied about 16 times that in the corresponding quarter in the previous year. You would all recall that Q4 financial year 20 was partially impacted due to the nationwide lockdown imposed in March 2020. The record sales in Q4 financial year 21 have been significantly aided by high price realizations owing to an overall global supply crunch flowing from elevated local Chinese demand, which could not be matched by supplies, leading to higher prices. This is likely to moderate as supply catches up with demand over the next few months, or the demand slows down for some reason, which has actually happened after March 21. We achieved our targeted production capacity of 450 metric tons per day, which represents 100% of installed capacity during February and March 2021. I'm pleased to share that the company has been awarded a trophy for 2021 and a cash prize from the Technology Development Board, Government of India, towards its effort to develop and commercialize technology for antimony-free solar glass. This prestigious award in the recent times has been conferred on Bharat Biotech, Reliance, and Larsen & Toubro. I shall now proceed to discuss overall operations during the year financial year 2021, developments relevant to this industry and the outlook for the future. The revenue from operations for financial year 21 stood at 502.3 crores, a growth of 85.4% over financial year 20. Out of the above, exports, including to customers in the SEZ, during the year under review were 108.9 crores as compared to 62.7 crores during the previous year. Exports comprised 21.67% to the company's revenues during financial year 21. EBITDA at rupees 202.7 crores grew by 406% over the previous year. Profit after tax at 89.6 crores grew several fold over financial year 20. The tax paid during financial year 21 includes a one-time charge of 18.6 crores representing income tax on the compulsory acquisition of land belonging to erstwhile Borosil Glassworks Limited by the Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai. The company decided to avail itself of the direct tax Vivad se Vishwas scheme in respect of this matter, which had been earlier disputed based on expert advice received by the company at that time. Without this exceptional item, the profit after tax would have been 108.3 crores, corresponding to 21.6% of revenue. The year 2020-21 saw a major transition in the company, with improved operational performance by achieving higher production, sales, and operational efficiencies following the capacity expansion implemented in 2019-20. The company had in 2019-20 added a second furnace with a capacity of 240 tons per day, which entered commercial production in August 2019. It also resumed operations of the first furnace in December 2019, following a complete rebuild to an enhanced capacity of 210 metric tons per day. The operational performance started to see full impact from December 2019 onwards. The company could register a revenue of 94.3 crores and EBITDA of 21.2 crores for the last quarter from January to March of the previous financial year. This would have been higher but for the nationwide lockdown and restrictions imposed from 23rd March, due to which significant sales for the quarter could not be achieved. In the current financial year, the performance of the first quarter remained severely impaired due to the impact of COVID-19, which shut down partial operations across the entire country, as also in the rest of the world. The situation started to improve towards the end of June 2020. However, due to the atmosphere of panic, there was a fall in demand and the selling prices of finished goods had to be dropped by us significantly during the first quarter of the year gone by, led by dumping from China, Malaysia at prices much lower than the level prevailing during January to March 2020. The recovery in prices started towards the end of September, after which the import prices kept continuously rising until January 21, before a sharp correction which occurred towards the end of March 2021. The price rise arose from a mismatch between demand and supply due to higher installations in China and a steady shift towards the use of glass modules, which require two glasses to be used as against just one in a conventional module. 95% of the global production of solar glass is controlled by Chinese companies who determine international pricing. Our company's large customers follow the price trend of imported glass, and as such, the company was able to realize higher selling prices from its domestic as well as export markets. The company has historically faced pressure on its selling prices due to continued cheap and dumped imports from China and Malaysia. The imposition in 2017 of anti-dumping duties on imports from China provided some relief, but its impact was only marginal due to a shift of the major supply to Malaysia, which continued to offer glass at a very low cost, based on the generous subsidies to its companies, which are not available to domestic Indian manufacturers. Large volumes of imports at dumped prices continued to flow unhindered from Malaysia, acquiring a significantly large market share. Finally, on 12th March 2021, the government levied a countervailing duty on imports of solar tempered glass originating from Malaysia. The anti-dumping duty against imports from China remains valid until August 2022. The company has filed an application with the concerned authority to extend the duty for another 5 years, considering a strong likelihood of continued dumping in view of large production capacities being added by Chinese companies, which are likely to cause a surplus and heighten the dumping. This has already started to happen after levy of countervailing duty against Malaysia, as imports from China are seen to have started to rise from April 2021. As you all know, the company made a qualified institution placement issue in December 2020 at an issue price of 126.55 and garnered about rupees 200 crores for part financing of project SG3, which would be the third furnace of the company. The company has also tied up term loans of rupees 200 crores with commercial banks for the said project. The balance will be funded from internal accruals. During the year under review, the company started work on installing this third furnace with an installed capacity of up to 500 tons, and the work on the project is progressing as per schedule. The said project is likely to be commissioned by second quarter 2022-23. The company has been keeping a constant watch on developments taking place in the sector. Many such developments aim at boosting domestic manufacturing and supply chain within the country to make it Atmanirbhar Bharat. Manufacturing of solar modules has been growing over the years, though this constitutes almost 50 to 60% of the installations during the last year. In order to promote domestic manufacturing of modules, government has taken a series of measures in the last 2-3 years. The solar power generating installations set up under programs such as the CPSU scheme, Kusum scheme, which represents solar water pumps for agriculture sector, and subsidy on residential rooftops, are required to use modules made in India using domestically manufactured solar cells. The government also levied a safeguard duty on import of cells and modules in July 2018, which shall continue until July 2021. The manufacturing linked tender for 6 gigawatts, under which integrated manufacturing capacities are required to be set up, was also announced. Finally, a basic customs duty of 40% on import of modules and 25% on import of solar cells to be effective from 1st April 2022 has been announced by the government. Finally, the most recent announcement relates to a PLI scheme, which is Performance Linked Incentive Scheme, under which additional production of high efficiency solar modules, cells and further backward integration will be incentivized. The scheme promotes use of domestically produced components, as the incentives are designed to be at a higher rate in case of greater use of domestic components. This incentivizes solar module manufacturers to source solar glass and other components from domestic producers. Coming to the state in the country, the growth of solar energy in the country has gained momentum in the last 5 years. The government has plans to set up 100 gigawatts of solar power installations by 2022 and a new target of 300 gigawatts by 2030 has been set. To achieve this, we need corresponding quantity of solar modules, which could either be imported or made domestically. Domestic manufacturing of solar modules requires supply of solar glass, which again can either be imported or sourced domestically. The actions on the ground in all the sectors, that is to say grid power, rooftop and solar water pumps, are showing good growth. Electrical vehicles could be another big area for growth of solar power. Agencies like Solar Energy Corporation of India Limited are creating enough demand visibility and auctions are being held much in advance. The total annual manufacturing capacity of solar modules in India currently stands at about 11 gigawatts. Significantly large capacity additions have been announced by various existing and new players. It is expected that 13 gigawatts additional capacities will come up in the next 1 or 2 years, taking up capacity to 24 gigawatts. The module manufacturers are also looking at supply chain of the key components from domestic sources, including solar glass. The government is attracting investment into production of polysilicon ingots and wafers so that there is assured supply for this strategically important sector. Coal India has announced plans to set up such a facility for 10 gigawatts. Capacity additions in cell manufacturing give rise to expectations for the capacity to ramp up to about 15 gigawatts. The rise in the installed capacity of solar module cell manufacturing will lead to a rise in the production of solar modules, which in turn will lead to a higher demand for solar glass. An important amendment to the laws governing duties, levy of duties on clearances from SEZ into DTA has plugged the loophole, which had previously allowed dutiable imported components to escape levy of duty when assembled into a finished product cleared from SEZ into DTA. This will negate the preference given by the module manufacturers in SEZ to using imported solar glass hitherto, and we expect demand to divert to domestic sources of supply. Considering the above market situation, the glass demand going forward indicates room for further expansion. In addition to its presence in the domestic market, the company has a meaningful presence in export markets. While the company's exports are mainly to European nations, its customers are spread across other countries including Turkey, Russia, Middle East, Africa, North and South America. The European Union has recently launched a solar accelerator program which envisages the setting up of almost 8 to 10 gigawatts of module manufacturing capacity in the European Union within the next 3 to 4 years to augment its present manufacturing capacity, which is insufficient. The European Union has recently extended by 5 years the levy of anti-dumping duty on solar glass coming from China. These developments will allow the company to increase exports and gain market share in this market as well. All the aforesaid factors indicate a promising demand scenario for solar glass. To meet this growing demand, the company has decided to go for a further expansion of manufacturing capacity by another 1,000 tons per day. This will be realized by setting up 2 more furnaces, namely the 4th and 5th furnace, each with a capacity of 500 tons per day in 2 phases. Phase 1 is expected to be taken up in the second half of the current financial year, and Phase 2 will be taken up immediately after commissioning of the current expansion SG3 on hand in 2022-23. The proposed capacity expansion plan under Phase 1 envisages setting up a new furnace with all downstream activities like grinding, coating, drilling, backprinting, and tempering facilities at the same factory location in a new building. Phase 1 will entail an estimated capex of Indian rupees 550 crores, excluding margin money for increased working capital and GST. It is expected that Phase 1 will be commissioned by April 2023. The company has decided to finance the same by using a mix of debt, equity, and internal accruals. The board has decided to raise 100 crores by way of a rights issue of shares to part finance Phase 1. For the purposes of giving effect to the rights issue, the detailed terms in relation to the rights issue, including but not limited to the issue price, rights entitlement ratio, record rate, timing and terms of payment will be determined and notified in due course. I would now like to open the floor to questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Mohit Kumar from DAM Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning, sir, and congratulations on a superb quarter. So my first question is, how was the realization of solar glass behaving in last 2 months compared to Q4 FY21? And how do you see, the EBITDA margin going forward for the business? Last year was the EBITDA margins were too high. Do you see any pressure on the margins? That's the first question. And secondly, sir, what will the capital expenditure required for 1,000 TPD expansion? Will it be close to 1,000 crores, or do you expect it to be lower than that? And do we have input raw material available for this large expansion? What is the strategy for sourcing this, the raw material? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your question. To answer your first question, the prices have come back to the normal levels which were prevailing in March 2020 already. And therefore, the question of the EBITDA that we have seen in the last quarter is not likely to be repeated. The demand remains robust in terms of quantity so far, but the advent of the corona problem, the second wave, has been causing some disruptions, and it is very difficult to project what the output is going to be like in May and June. Having said that, I would say that according to the numbers that we see being published, the rate of infections is declining to some extent, though they remain high. And it's really very, very open-ended from the standpoint of the functioning of operations, both in the manufacturing and in the field regarding installation of modules. Though so far manufacturing operations have not been impaired significantly. The second question that you had pertaining to the expansion, it is quite likely that it would be in the region of about 1100 crores for about 1000 ton capacity growth. There is always room for improvement and reduction, or we could face expansion. For example, now commodity prices have risen significantly and the prices of steel have really gone up enormously. And all this has caused a rise in the price of equipment, which we are attempting to source now for our the current program. So this whole pandemic has raised a lot of issues in the world, and it's not so easy to predict anything. So I'm afraid I cannot say more than that. So far as EBITDA is concerned, again, you already have the information until March. For the current quarter, we are only halfway through the quarter. So it would be very rash of me to make any kind of a suggestion as to what might happen at the end of this quarter. Thank you.
So one question more, if I may excuse in. So what was the bifacial module production in this country in proportion of total module? Do we have some data on regarding that?
We have just a very tiny quantum of bifacial modules. People are still experimenting with bifacial modules in India. But you see, the thing is this, that the solar industry, it experiments and it takes and then it moves with lightning speed. And if suddenly there is a demand for bifacial modules, it will probably not be going at 2% and 3%, but with larger chunks of jump. So that is something that remains to be seen. But clearly, for example, in China, 30% of the modules they are using is bifacial, and they have installed 41 gigawatts last year. This year they are targeting about 60 gigawatts. So that will be 50% more than what they did last year. And they are planning to go up to 60% of all modules coming up in bifacial. So therefore, bifacial modules definitely are something that we are looking at quite seriously, and the world is looking at quite seriously.
Thank you, sir. Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, to ask a question, you may press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Abhishek Ghosh from DSP Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Am I audible?
Yes,
Hello?
you are.
Okay. So thanks for the opportunity. So you spoke about 11 gigawatt of capacity for the solar module, which is already present domestically. What is the so while that's a rated capacity, what is the peak utilization which these capacities can move to?
You see, the utilization last year was about 4 gigawatts, in which many factors played a role. Least of which was not the problems that people had in finding workers to come and man their factories. Okay, for the first 6 months there was a lot of problem with that, and the corona really moved big time into the industrial heartland. August, September, October. These 3 months were really bad for corona, and lots of factories were shutting down and could not find workers. So so last year the capacity utilization was about 4 gigawatts out of 11. But actually speaking, 11 gigawatts capacity can turn out 11 gigawatts of modules. There is no problem with that. And we see that there are some factories when they are working with full capacity of people, they are churning out 100% capacity. So that, I mean, and about another 13 gigawatts is set up for installation. So about 24 gigawatts capacity should be available in India in another 12 to 18 months, let's say.
And that should help us to kind of get to the overall target of government to reach that solar overall installation, so that 20-25 gigawatt of kind of capacity domestically, the import dependence will come down drastically to reach to the overall target of that 5 years.
See, I mean, considering the fact that we had a 4 gigawatt of installation last year, it would be reckless for me to try and predict what kind of installation we might have this year. Certainly, there is no letter from the side of the government and the financing, and so people who are able to set up capacities would be paid. So, I mean, there's no shortage of funds. There could be logistical issues and issues with workers and things like that. But I would say that capacities this year would be utilized much more than what they were last year. That's my general sense. And also fresh capacities are being installed every day. I mean, whatever we are producing will be easily sold, because as of now, with these two furnaces, we are doing 2.5 gigawatts only. So as far as we are concerned, there's no issue of selling off glass. Even the third furnace, which is expected to come up in the second quarter of the next financial year, we do not see any issue with selling that capacity at all.
Yeah, just to add here, the average module utilization, capacity utilization could be about 65 to 70%. That is what we understand from the various customers. But it may fluctuate to 25% also and to 100% also, depending on the situation.
Sure. And so the other question that I had is, what is the effective cell production capacity in India?
It would be not right for me to comment on that, because we do not manufacture cells, and these are being made by other people, and everybody has their expansion plans. From whatever I can see, based on the very strong incentives which are being seen from the government, cell production is going to rise in this country dramatically.
For that, okay. And so just a couple of questions in terms of if you look at, so broadly 500 TPD should give you about 2.5 gigawatt is what you're calling out for.
Yes, right? Correct.
So 1000 gigawatt, 1000 TPD will translate to another like 5 gigawatts. So you'll be basically be able to cater to about 7.5 gigawatt post your expansion, right? For domestic.
No, 10 gigawatts post 1000 tons. You see, right now we are at say 450 tons. We are going in for another 500, 550 tons. That will bring us up to 5 gigawatts. Then another 1000 tons on top of that would give us another 5 gigawatts. So we should be able to handle 10 gigawatts by the time this proposed expansion is complete.
Sorry to interrupt. May I request Mr. Ghosh to please rejoin the queue? We have participants waiting for their turn.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ravi Mehta from Deep Financial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity. Sir, you just mentioned that the realizations are coming back to earlier levels. Is it possible to quantify what could it be and what was it average in Q4?
Mr. Jain, would you like to take this question?
Yeah, sure. So the average realization, as Mr. Kheruka has said, the prices have gone back to the earlier levels. Having said that, the earlier levels realization used to be at about 100 rupees per unit. But there is an impact of countervailing duty now against Malaysia. So the average realization has not gone down to that extent. It is still at about 115 rupees or so.
When you say 115 per unit, how does it boil down to, a kind of a per ton or a square meter kind of a rate?
Yeah, 115 per square meter it is, on 1 millimeter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Square meter per millimeter.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. And another question was more on the power cost. So that has to do with the gas prices going up. So it's been inching up for the last few quarters.
Power cost has not gone up on per unit consumption basis. It has gone up in absolute because the production is high. And since we have highest production in the quarter 4, the absolute amount is looking high.
Okay, so this could be a normal run rate at full utilization.
Yes. The gas cost was a little higher in the beginning of quarter, so that has slightly come off now. So, but it keeps fluctuating, so one can assume this to be a normal situation.
Okay. Sure. And in the new capex that we are planning, the 1100 crore capex, what you alluded, are we having the 2 tempered lines also being factored in that, or that could be additional on top of it?
We are factoring thinner glass into this. It's a fairly complex matter because we do fully tempered thin glass. Lot of the market is unable to do it, so they take what is called a heat strengthened glass, which is less than fully tempered, and therefore we will have to wait and see how other markets around the world respond to this. Because in Europe so far we have demand for fully tempered glass, which strictly speaking cannot be met from most people in China or in China for that matter, to my knowledge. So therefore this is still one of those things which is a bit of a gray area, and we'll have to see what develops as it comes along.
Sure. So, and what current tempered lines we have, are we utilizing it fully or still not utilized fully?
The tempering lines require to be refurbished from time to time, and so they have to be taken down for maintenance. And keeping that in mind, I would say that we have a little bit of surplus on tempering capacity because we do not want to lose any orders because we don't have tempering available.
Okay. So as the situation evolves, we may think of adding tempering lines as and when we get clarity.
For every furnace that we are adding, we immediately order all the tempering that we need plus some, because because of maintenance. So therefore, we would always have enough tempering available. And tempering is not just tempering. You have to grind the glass. You have to wash the glass. In many cases now you want holes drilled in the glass at very high speeds. Then the glass has to be coated with anti-reflecting coatings or anti-soiling coatings and so on, and then tempered. So it's a lot of equipment which comes into play after the glass has been manufactured and cut to size.
Okay. So probably those balancing equipment, everything is factored in the capex what we are sharing.
Hello?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible now. Tell me.
Oh, okay. So probably that 1100 crore capex we alluded, that factors in these balancing equipment and tempering.
Yeah, of course, absolutely everything.
Okay, sure. And lastly, probably I missed on the point that if we are expanding the capacity to this extent, are we already in talks with raw material suppliers and how to ramp up the sourcing contracts and all? So any color on that?
Oh, yes.
And can we see scale economies on that because of the volumes going up, or?
Okay, some marginal improvements in economies of scale, I would say. On the raw materials, I mean.
Okay. And on power cost also, can we expect benefit as the scale improves?
Whatever is the government policy is what would determine power cost really.
Okay.
So in terms of consumption, it does not affect in terms of the economy of scale because each plant is a separate one, so that remains separate. But as far as the cost is concerned, as Mr. Kheruka has said, it is depending on the government, plus the government's incentives, if there are any, like electricity duty waiver or any power rate subsidy or like that. Hello?
Thank you. Shall we ask Mr. Ravi Mehta to please rejoin the queue? We have the participants waiting.
Sure.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nimesh Sangvi from Principal Asset Management. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Congratulations on good set of numbers. So I just wanted to know how do we enter into our raw material contracts? Is it annual contracts? If yes, then are we seeing any price inflation on that part going ahead? That was second is with such aggressive capacity addition and with an overhang of Chinese dumping probably 1 year kind of coming to an end after 1 year. do we see any risk to price realizations for ourselves?
You see, answering your first question, raw material is something that we've been working with for a very long time, and we have good relations with our vendors, and we do not foresee any difficulty in ramping up the quantum of supply, and we do not see any difficulty in being able to maintain a steady stream of supply at good prices. Relationships are always long-term as far as we are concerned. We do not engage in spot market business. We have long-term relationships. Regarding the threat of Chinese supply and so on, you see, we have come to this point where we have, because we keep a close watch on our costs. And we must be, this is a constant effort by the company where we keep on and on trying to figure out how we can bring costs even lower and lower. And we have succeeded so far. We've been around for the last 11 years. And I feel that we shall be able to meet Chinese competition as and when it comes. We do have the WTO on our side, in the sense that there are rules which do prevent dumping from taking place, and they allow for imposition of anti-dumping duties, which have been imposed not only by us, but the European Union as well, against imports of solar glass from China. So we do not see any reason to believe that these will not be extended. And then nobody can tell the future. So we are not particularly worried about that.
Yeah, so just a couple of clarifications. One, on the raw material front, are we seeing any cost inflation out there with commodity prices across the globe rising, and which could lead to some margin pressure in next year?
Actually, it's very difficult to address that, because after the pandemic, there have been many changes, all right, in the style that people are working. So, for instance, one does not see a lot of pressure on office buildings. So I don't know how construction is going to be. I don't know about flat glass and soda ash prices and things like that. So I cannot say whether soda ash prices are going to rise or fall. That is the biggest single item that goes into the production of glass in terms of cost. And the other matters are fairly steady. I don't see any great pressure on that.
Fine, sir. And so just one last thing, if you can share the realization number for Q4.
Q4 we have already, Ashok Jain, aap bolenge?
Yeah, it was about 155 rupees or thereabouts.
Okay, fine, sir. Thank you. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jamik Rahman from Franklin Templeton. Please go ahead.
Hi, morning.
Morning.
Yeah, most of the questions have been answered. Just a couple of pending. One is, could you tell the exact volume that you did in Q4 in terms of tons of glass melted?
We were producing at 450 tons per day, and we had no stocks at the end of the quarter. In fact, I think we exhausted some opening stocks that we might have had. So, Ashok, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so I think the question is that how much tonnage has been produced?
No, how much has been sold, I think, or produced?
Or even produced, Mr. Jain, even that is so. So it is about 450 for the entire 90 days, is it?
Per day. This is per day. This is a production. This is the gross production from the furnace, and then there are some losses in the processing, and the net production is about 71-72% of this. So the entire quantity has been, whatever has been produced is sold, and as Mr. Kheruka said, in fact, the opening stock also has been sold. So there was no stock in the factory as of 31st March 21.
Fine. And Mr. Jain, so when does the second furnace, when do you expect that to start production?
Second quarter of next year.
Yeah.
Second quarter of the next financial year. So it could be in July, perhaps, of next year, July, August. You know, there is setback now because civil contractors aren't able to find workers to come and stay on site, for instance. So these things are giving us some tension, some worry. But of course, this won't last forever, and we see the cases are dropping. So people cannot stay without working for too long. So I don't think that will be too much. But all the hardware has been ordered, so July perhaps next year.
Okay. And where does bulk of the machinery come from, Mr. Kherukar?
They're coming from around the world. I mean, mostly the glass manufacturing equipment is sourced from West Europe. Some of the processing equipment comes from China, some of it. But most of it comes from West Europe.
Okay. And on the proposed 1,000 TPD expansion, will that also happen at the same site?
Yes, as of now, that is the plan, to have it on the same. We have plenty of land. All the services are available. So it is being conceived over there.
Okay, got it. Mr. Jain, just one data point. Again, sorry to just harp on this pricing. So 155 was the approximate realization in Q4. Now it is 115. And what was the approximate realization in the December quarter? That's Q3.
It was about 106, I think.
Fair enough. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Tarun Mittal from Banyan Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for taking my question. I just, were looking at the numbers that the management has presented just now. So, sir, as you rightly mentioned that you have 26% of exports. And from this 2.5%, 2.5 gigawatt of glass that you just mentioned that you are supplying. So, of this, I believe 1.85 approximately is going to the domestic market. Am I right in quoting that, sir?
Could be. I don't have that figure offhand.
Actual exports are
about 2
14.
gigawatts or so would be going to domestic market, or 1.85. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. So actually about 15% are the real exports, which are to outside countries, and some exports are to SEZs. So when you quote the number of 21-22%, it is including the SEZs. So actual exports are about 14 to 15%.
So, sir, it would be correct to say that we have around 50% market share when it comes to, just 4 gigawatt of utilization that the domestic industry saw last year?
Yeah, thereabouts, 50% or so.
I see. And since we are, planning to expand multifold in the coming years, and the corresponding industry from which you source raw material, the soda ash industry, has almost nil planned expansions of capacity. So do you see any issue in sourcing of raw material in the coming years, sir?
No, I think this issue has been discussed. We do not foresee any difficulty in getting all the raw materials, including soda ash. In fact, there are opportunities to import also, and domestic producers are also happy to supply soda ash to us. So we do not find it challenge.
I see, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ritesh Gandhi from Discovery Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir, and congratulations on your numbers.
Thank you.
I had a question that given effectively the kind of profitability that we have and the ROCEs and ROEs, just wanted to understand, do we have a strong argument and case that we can make for anti-dumping continuing into the future, especially given effectively ultimately it impacts the price of solar power at the end of the day, So do we see enough of an argument? Because we have just seen in cases, actually soda ash, etc., where effectively the government hasn't been too keen to extend anti-dumping on products which actually have inflationary impact on the downstream industries ultimately.
Yeah, so in terms of solar glass, the prices were hovering around 100 rupees per square meter for all these years, and it's only in the last quarter, that is Q4, the prices ran up because of Chinese extra requirement. And as we know, prices have come back also largely. So the prices have not remained, which will generate kind of ROC or ROE which we have seen this financial year or particularly this quarter. So looking at the one particular quarter cannot guide the government to decide on the front of whether the industry should be protected from the dumping or not. So it will all depend on how the ministry looks at it. We are confident that the way things are happening around the Chinese capacity expansions and other things, on the basis of likelihood of dumping, which is generally the case in the sunset clauses, the dumping could be allowed by the dumping margin could be allowed by the government, and duty can be continued. Even in European Union, the same thing happened, and the duty has been continued for 5 years in last year.
Got it. Understood. Thanks. And the other question is with regards to soda ash, which obviously is a large RM. We are hearing from some of the players that there's overall a little tightness. So I'm sure availability between imports and effectively the domestic will be there. But are you seeing that the prices inching upwards? And given global capacity effectively is reasonably flat and the market is growing at 2 to 3%, are you seeing potential tightness? And in turn, do you think we'd be able to actually pass that on to our, the customers?
I would like to break in here and say that in terms of global capacity, there is perhaps the largest source of soda ash is from ANSAC, that's American Natural Soda Ash Corporation. These are 5 companies who have come together, and they harvest soda ash from the surface. I mean, that's like mining soda ash from the surface. And they have enormous capacity. So if you deploy more collecting vehicles, payloaders, dumpers, or whatever, excavators, you'll get more soda ash. So I would say that the production of soda ash as such, in terms of capacity, is simply not a constraint. If the world was to want 50% more soda ash in the next year, they would get it without any problem. And the availability of the soda ash in large volumes, the moment that there is a concerted extra demand that's going to be there for the foreseeable future, then the production from ANSAC will rise.
Effectively viable, because from what I understand, given freight costs, effectively it is not a commodity which ideally you can excessively import because it's expensive, and only the excess capacity is ultimately important.
You see, the high freight rate today is a sort of, again, a feature of a bottleneck. We have some exorbitant freight rate today, but that's certainly not going to be there going forward. I cannot see that happening. Because it's not as if the world demand for freight has suddenly doubled altogether. It's a bottled up demand which has been certainly dumped onto the suppliers in the near term, and we've seen expansion. But I've been around for so many decades now. I've seen freight rates fluctuate from high to low, just like a wave. The peak of the wave to the trough of the wave is very, very close behind. So
we see the pricing of soda ash to be reasonably flattish in the near term, is it? Is our
We have been importing soda ash all the way until 2020. The bulk of our consumption has been from imported soda ash. The freight rate has not been an issue at all. In fact, the imported price has been cheaper than the domestic price, which is the reason why we imported it in the first place.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhimanyu Thakkar from Crest Portfolio. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sir. Thank you for the opportunity and congratulations on a great set of numbers. Sir, I have just 2 questions. Probably, pardon me if it is a repeat. What would be the price and volume mix split year on year? If you can just explain, we have seen price rise and we have already come back to some earlier levels. So just wanted to gauge what has been the volume growth this quarter year on year and compared to the last year's similar quarter.
Ashok ji, aap bolenge?
Yeah. So actually the most part of the increase in the profitability in Q4 over last year's Q4 has been incrementally because of the prices, and certain small portion has been because of the volume. So that is the phenomena which has happened in a particular quarter. But yes, we have been improving our production and the volumes every quarter, and even the physical performance of the production has been rising steadily. But price has been the major contributor to the extent of more than 80-85% in the quarter.
Got it. And the second thing, like in the last quarter, we had talked about an international player tie-up, and probably they'll be producing some components with us. Any like update, or can you throw some light on that?
Sorry, can you clarify what this talk is regarding? What component?
Like, I was actually going through the last quarter notes, and like I came across a point wherein we mentioned an international player coming in who wants to partner and produce some components. So just wanted to.
There was some talk about that, but at the moment, because of the aggressive expansion we are doing, and also the corona situation, etc., that matters a little bit in cold storage.
Got it. And so lastly, considering the raw materials prices have increased and all, any ballpark estimate like what would be the capex increase in the capex probably we are expecting in relative or percentage terms? Like
we are working on that, and I think by the time it's time for us to have the next quarterly call, we should have a much better handle on that.
Got it. Thank you so much, sir. Wish you all the luck and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Kanda Babu Naidu from ESI Investments. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Congrats on the great set of numbers. So I was actually really curious to understand. So with respect to the expansion that we have, do we see a lot of that coming in via contracts and local players, or do we kind of expect exports to play a role there? And the second question that I had was, with respect to the prices on the export and the local players, the contracts that we have, do we see difference in the pricing for export and the local contracts?
I'm sorry, I couldn't get the first question properly. Could you repeat that first question? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, the first question, can you repeat?
Yes. So with respect to the expansion that we are doing, we've got 500, we start producing 500 tons more over within the next 4 quarters, and another 500 following that in another year. Would that, a lot of it be coming from local opportunities, or would it be export as well?
It would be a mix of both, because we do have a presence in the export market, which is important to us, because that way we keep in touch with the world production, world quality, world demand, performance, everything. And so we always keep a strong, we keep a strong presence in the export market across different geographies, which is going to continue. There is indeed a very strong demand internationally for sources of solar glass which originate from outside China. And so people want to have contracts with people like us who are non-Chinese owned and non-China located.
And with respect to the pricing of exports versus...
As the pricing is concerned, there are a few players who operate in these markets, and the prices are set by those people, because we are not dominant players there. So we follow those prices, which are typically a little better than the prices which are prevalent here, usually.
And so just one quick follow-up, if I may. With respect to the anti-dumping duty, so as you mentioned, people are looking for sources other than China outside India. Do we have any like duties or anti-dumping related conversations that come up in these markets too?
As I said, the anti-dumping duty about which we are aware is in the European Union, and there we get the benefit of that, so to speak, because the domestic producer there keeps his prices on the basis of the anti-dumping duty, and so we are able to export at a reasonable rate. There are other players in other markets. They would just buy from us at negotiated prices from us. So there, I suppose people just want to have 2 suppliers on hand, and that's why we are there.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jay Shah, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So, congratulations on the wonderful set of numbers. Like, it is a delight for us investors who've seen the company grow through. Just one question. Almost all my questions have been answered. Just one question. I've been in talks with a lot of promoters based in Gujarat, like solar module manufacturing promoters. They said that in the near term, they're seeing a lot of pressure since the solar power projects are getting delayed big time. So, like, what is your outlook for the near term? Like, do you think that the domestic market is going to slow down, and would we, sell more towards the export markets? And also, second question, you said that the realizations have come down. Is that because you mentioned earlier in the call that China is going to restart their plant capacity by June? So has that already happened? Yeah, that's what.
Ashok ji, aap answer kar dijiye.
So there have been delays in the solar projects because of many regions, and the second wave is the most recent one to add to those regions. And because of these things, there has been certain amount of uncertainty on the projects because of the availability of labor. The industry is facing the corona infection to their labor and so on and so forth, and non-availability of labor for the installations even. So before the beginning of the quarter, actually the estimates were that almost 9 gigawatts of installations will take place in 2021-22. But we have to see how we can ramp up in the remaining part of the year once the corona second wave impact goes off. As far as the pricing of the materials are concerned, we already said that the component prices have corrected, but it has not happened across the board. Like the solar cell prices are still going up. The module prices are not going down anywhere. So there has been mix of trends in the various things. As far as we are concerned, the solar glass prices have actually gone down, and we have been with a time lag of about a month. We have been asked to adjust to the reality on the prices. So the prices have corrected in the current financial year.
And has China already started their capacities? The additional
on the Chinese capacity addition plans, there are various kind of data floating. And earlier, in the beginning of 2019-20, they were having about 20,000 ton capacity, and now we are told that they have 28,000 ton capacity, and there are about 16,000 tons capacities to be added in 21 and 22. So their capacities are coming almost every 2-3 months possibly, and I do not have update on whether the capacities are getting delayed or not. But there is the ability to adjust the timing of the capacity addition depending on the market situation. So current fall in the prices is not because of higher capacity of solar glass production taking place. It's because of the demand for projects has also come down in China significantly in April and May, because there is no policy direction as of now, which Chinese government generally does after end of May. So we'll have to see whether in June it starts getting any traction on a fast and large scale basis or not. So far it is done.
So from what I understand, if the capacities come online in the next 2 months, can we expect a further downfall in the glass prices if the capacity increases and the demand is not there as much?
See, based on the projections given by various agencies around the world, the glass supply is not likely to be surplus in calendar 21 because the demand is also going to be very high for the modules. The installations which were projected were more than 160 gigawatt as compared to 110, 115 gigawatt in last year. So correspondingly, you need all the components including glass. So in fact, if the demand stays for the modules on course, the glass is not going to be surplus. But should there be any mismatch, there can be some disturbances in the prices. What we see around now is that the prices are at the rock bottom as of today in last 5 years. So we do not expect prices to indefinitely go down because there is a certain cost of running a solar glass plant, and anybody who is running a solar glass plant will not just do it for the sake of running it. And many of these large companies who are producing a significant amount of glass are listed companies. So they will not like to just jeopardize all their profitability and every number, and they will like to correct the situation whenever it is required.
Correct. All right. Thank you so much and good luck.
Can we say that this will be the next question, will be the last question, please?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this will be the last question, which is from the line of Vedansh Agarwal, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Thanks, sir, for taking the opportunity and giving the opportunity. So I had one question, basically on the countervailing duties that have been levied, right? So I was just trying to understand in the last quarter, while I understand the pricing played a major role in maintaining our EBITDA margin. But in a hypothetical situation where, this countervailing duty were to be removed tomorrow at, whatever be the operational prices at which maybe the Chinese player can function, what would be our sort of margin that we can expect? And also the fact that the ramp up in the capacities that we are doing, would that lead us to kind of get a benefit of scale and then reduce our cost a bit so that the margins can be protected to a certain extent, right? So if you can give some flavor on that, that will be great.
Yeah, so just to answer your question on the CVD front, the CVD has been announced on 12th of March 2021. But what has actually happened is that the Malaysian imports have come down significantly in the current financial year. And the Malaysian factory is probably supplying to some other locations, other customers. And all the glass which is being offered in India, more or less almost 80-90% is being offered by Chinese companies, against whom there is anti-dumping duty existing right now. So the CVD, in effect, has not been a major factor in determining the current prices. The current prices are determined with the help of the landed cost, considering anti-dumping duty against Chinese imports. So that was one. Regarding the margin fluctuation on account of removal of CVD, CVD is there for 5 years, so we should not assume CVD is not there or will not be there for next 4 years, 5 years. But if you are to exclude the CVD impact of that 9.71%, the prices will not be any different than what they are today in terms of our offer, because the imports are mainly from China now.
Okay. Hello? And sir, how would the impact be if the new capacities come up? How much incremental? How much would we be able to reduce our per unit cost, and then irrespective of these AVD and all that, how much can we benefit in terms of let's say margin?
Yeah, so the impact of the expansion will be largely felt in the overheads and wages cost or employees cost actually, because these are the overheads which will be spread over a larger production. In terms of the inputs and other sourcing, there will be marginal savings because of the ability to bargain better because of the volume. So we expect 3 to 4% expansion in the margin on account of these control on the overheads going forward.
Got it. That's it, sir. So thanks for that.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your questions, and I look forward to meeting you again next quarter when we are ready with our results for the ongoing quarter.
Thank you. On behalf of Axis Capital Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your line.